This will be a congressional fight, a constitutional fight, a legal fight, and on days like this, a street fight. Yes, we will stand.
So let me tell you something, Mr. Trump. You gonna learn a few lessons from us. And I'm gonna be the first one. You and your little friend off of Twitter. Y'all about to find out, all right?
So it's another day in Washington, and you know exactly what that means. It means we have even more ridiculous and stupid and comical protests from the Democrat politicians on the streets of DC. Now, I kid you not, every single weekday since last Monday, they've done something. They're going out protesting every single freaking day, screaming about Elon Musk, screaming about DOGE. Oh my gosh, it is so harmful to Americans that we are no longer funding $1.5 million for DEI programs in Serbia. Wah, wah, wah. Crying and seething and all of that. But it really does make me beg the question, watching these protests literally take place every single day, led by members of Congress, right? Democrat members of Congress. Don't you have to ask a little bit, don't these people have a job to do? At least I would think so. You know, and I use the term job sparingly. We'll put job in quotation marks because we know obviously that these members of Congress do not actually do anything. But at the very least on paper, you would think that they should be spending, I don't know, the weekdays. It's very interesting. They're not protesting on the weekend. They're protesting during the weekdays when they're supposed to be working. You know, it's very interesting there. But shouldn't they be drafting legislation, voting on things, sitting on committees, meeting with constituents, anything that actually entails being a member of Congress? But I guess not. I guess this is what you get when you vote for Democrat members of Congress. They're just going to go and take photo ops and scream in the streets. So there you go. Very glad that anyone in this country is voting for this party. But nonetheless, okay, so there you have the Democrats, and we'll talk about their ridiculous protests that they're doing yet again today. But I also want to juxtapose that with the accomplishments of DOGE today in terms of what they found out with what was going on at FEMA and a lot of the money being sent to illegal aliens, while, of course, they completely dropped the ball on the wildfire relief in Maui, as well as Hurricane Helene. And the reason I put those side by side is to show you, okay, so this is what DOGE is doing, right? DOGE is actually finding out things that are important, not just to like our national budgets or to waste, but in the case of FEMA, right? Why Americans cannot get basic assistance and services because of both the corruption and the incompetence of agencies like FEMA. And meanwhile, Democrats are going out there saying, no, this is so harmful to Americans. How dare you expose the fraud and corruption of our own tax dollars? And it's like, what exactly is going on there? And why exactly do you think these Democrat politicians are trying so hard to lead protests to save something like, I don't know, USAID? Like, why are they so passionate about this? Because even your ordinary Democrat voter out there, you know, I'm going to venture to guess, of all the issues they care about as a liberal, immigration, abortion, LGBT, whatever, USAID, really? That's like the big issue we're all so passionate about. Most Americans didn't even know what USAID was until last week. So why are the Democrats leading so many protests about this? Well, it's very simple. They're hiding their own corruption. That's what they're the most scared of, is Elon Musk is going into these government bureaucracies. And for the first time, basically, since their inception, these people are being held accountable. Now we're looking into where the money is going. And I don't know, maybe they're concerned that there might be some kickbacks or some corruption going on there. Just a thought. Okay, just a thought. But nonetheless, okay, so as they protest DOGE, let us once again explain to you what DOGE has uncovered today, because over the past week, we talked about how Elon Musk was going to be looking into FEMA, obviously in the wake of the massive disaster with Hurricane Helene and how that rebuilding effort was being slow rolled under Joe Biden. And then magically, when Trump took power, they resolved 80% of their cases in North Carolina in just 5 days. We'll take a look now at another conspiracy theory that was proven correct, because according here to Libs of TikTok, FEMA has found today, they found this out, was spending $59 million on luxury New York City hotels for illegal aliens. And this took place, believe it or not, last week. They sent the money last week in violation of Trump's executive order. Trump obviously signed an executive order saying, hey, you need to basically put a freeze, a temporary pause on all new government assistance. And you can virtually imagine that the Trump administration would not be very happy about spending money on something like this. Well, you had FEMA circumventing the authority of the president and of the federal government to just send that $59 million to the illegal aliens anyway. And now, guys, you rapidly find out the answer, and we know exactly why these bureaucracies and the Democrats trying so hard to defend do not want anyone turning over the stones and holding them accountable, because these are rogue agencies. They think they literally get to do whatever they want. And the story gets much, much worse than just $59 million without Trump's approval that was sent to these illegal aliens. By the way, Elon Musk is currently trying to get that money back, just so you guys are aware. Here are some other headlines from FEMA. Department of Homeland Security announces $380 million in additional funding to communities receiving migrants. As just one example, here's a lot more. FEMA awards $110 million to Emergency Food and Shelter Program to assist migrants. Department of Homeland Security announces distribution of more than $77 million in congressional funding. New York City gets $104 million from FEMA for asylum seekers. Department of Homeland Security announces the distribution of $12 million of funding. And of course, we now also have $300 million funding to communities receiving migrants and $340 million for a new competitive awards process. And of course, guys, let's remind ourselves, all of this was going on while people in North Carolina were not getting the help they needed. Many of them were sitting around, basically homeless, or they're living in cramped hotels. And we were told, right, that first of all, FEMA doesn't have the money. And secondly, how could we forget? We were also told it was a conspiracy theory that FEMA was spending money on illegal immigrants. And how did that one turn out?
So disaster relief, this is a falsehood. Disaster relief funds used on immigrants illegally in the U.S. The fact is, no money is being diverted from response needs. That's the fact.
So yeah, again, it was literally happening. FEMA was quite literally spending money, millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. I think the actual end sum comes close to $1 billion to shelter and house and take care of illegal migrants. We covered before how they were being given luxury apartments that they don't even have to pay rent or utilities on. You can go watch our prior video on FEMA. But again, this is exactly why they don't want themselves to be exposed. They don't want Elon Musk to come into all of these government agencies and look in, because guys, FEMA's not alone here. USAID is not alone. Even the Pentagon is not alone. This type of behavior is happening everywhere within our government bureaucracy. And you have to wonder, of course, why the Democrats are so keen on protesting and trying to defend, we will say, their own corruption in many cases in the situation. We'll tell you about that in a second. First, though, folks, do us a big favor. Make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe if you are new. You subscribing is the #1 way to ensure that we can keep doing these videos. It's completely free, and let's begin the push to 1 million subscribers. And with that said, okay, understanding that is what DOGE was doing today. Again, finding out what exactly was going wrong in terms of people in North Carolina who were not getting relief from an incompetent and complete disaster of a government. Here is what the Democrats were spending their time doing out in the streets.
They've loved their country. They've highly favored their faith. They believed in an America that was for all people. They get up every morning. They put on their clothes and they come to buildings like this all over the country to do a simple, nonpartisan job, and that is to serve the people of America with the best service they can provide.
I don't know about that one. That's a questionable claim. Can we get the fact checkers on this one, please? Can we get the fact checkers?
Yes, they work hard. Yes, they play by the rules. Yes, they love.
Yes, they play by the rules. Okay, let's again juxtapose this with the fact that just this week, FEMA got caught illegally spending $59 million, sending it to something that the rules said they could not send that money. Okay. And there are many other cases here. You have USAID, for instance, doing things that are against the will of the State Department, just sending money wherever they want. And then when asked by their bosses, hey, can you show us what they're doing? They refuse to turn over any information. That's playing by the rules. Well, according to the Democrats, I guess up is down and everything is backwards. But just saying, our federal bureaucracy is not playing by the rules.
Of their country. Yes, they cherish their faith. And yes, they want a fair shot. What we're seeing coming out of Washington is anything but that. Every time you hear DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, you remember it is the Department of Government Evil. Over.
So the Department of Government Evil are the people who are trying to expose the corruption and embezzlement of tax dollars, not the people embezzling and using for corrupt methods those very tax dollars. Okay, well, again, this is what the Democrats are busy doing in DC. Instead of working, by the way, I'm just saying, once again, I thought they're supposed to be working. Here, by the way, is also Democrat Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who we always know is here to just provide us such insightful and amazing opinions. And she's just, so good at this and definitely not a complete moron. Take a listen to her protesting today. With the same cast of characters as usual. They're always here. Maxine Waters, okay? She was at the Department of Education on Friday. She was places before that. The infamous video of Chuck Schumer going, "We will win. We will win." She's right there next to him. Does this woman, Maxine Waters, ever actually work in the Capitol? Clearly not. This is all she does. She just goes out on the streets and at 86 years old, by the way, literal geriatric, this is all she does. I don't know.
I'm going to try my best not to preach.
Go ahead. Preach.
I just want to say thank you, because every day that we show up in D.C., we show up for you. We know who we work for. We know that we work for the American people. And what
you know who you work for? Yeah, you work for the deep state. And by the way, I don't just mean that in like a haha gotcha way. You literally work for the deep state, because that's who you're out here defending right now. You're like, how dare you fire people in the deep state? So it's very transparent what's going on here.
we not gonna do is stand around while they pull this bullshit that they trying to pull right now.
Go ahead.
This is why I'm not gonna be able to preach, because I probably won't be able to stop cussing.
Take your time.
But let me tell y'all something. I know some of y'all have been frustrated, and you've been saying, where are the Democrats? Where are our leaders? Well, I'm here to tell you that we ain't never left y'all.
Go ahead.
All right? We are here. We are also going to make sure that they uphold the law. We are not going to sit around while you go ahead and desecrate our Constitution, or you look at the laws that have been passed into law and say, never mind, we'll just ignore that. Instead, we are going to be in your face, we are going to be on your asses, and we are going to make sure, you understand what democracy looks like. This ain't it.
So democracy is apparently Jasmine Crockett obnoxiously screaming into a microphone. Got it.
Let me tell you something, Mr. Trump. You gonna learn a few lessons from us. And I'm gonna be the first one. You and your little friend off of Twitter, y'all about to find out, all right?
Oh, really? Oh, really, Jasmine Crockett? What are you gonna do? Do another protest in the streets? Are you going to write a strongly worded letter this time after yesterday's strongly worded letter to Trump? Oh my gosh, we're all so scared. We're so terrified. What are you going to do? Right? That's the thing about this. They go out and claim they're doing so. No, this is all performative. This is all theater, and it's not even good theater. Okay, you guys are not even compelling. You guys are just literally a bunch of morons screaming in the streets. Jasmine Crockett, everyone's watching this video right now and thinking to themselves, how is this individual with about 3 brain cells ever been elected to Congress to begin with? Well, that's for her district to decide and deal with. But nonetheless, okay, at least we do have this admission right here. And in total defense to the Democrats, I know we're laughing at them because, again, the only mechanism they have besides pulling some really dirty tricks, if you know what I mean, besides that, all they can basically do, considering they do not hold a single chamber of government, is sit there and cry and whine. Even House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries Jeffries basically admitted recently that the Democrats are pretty hopeless and lost because there's literally nothing they can do and they have no leverage. So great message, but arguably also true. This is the state of the Democrat Party.
I'm trying to figure out what leverage we actually have. What leverage do we have? They control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. It's their government. What leverage do we have?
Yeah, so there you have the Democrats basically explaining to the American people why there is absolutely nothing they can do, which kind of in this context, I guess, does actually make sense. But I would also point out, you know, they used to have power in government. About a couple months ago, they had the majority of power in government, and they, of course, still did nothing. So that is basically Democrats, as usual, explaining why they get nothing of use or of note done. And yeah, long story short, I'm not exactly scared or fearful of these losers in Congress who are, I don't know, they're going to hold more signs, really? They're going to scream again into the microphone? It's like, okay, you guys are a complete joke. I will say, however, there is an effort to resist the Trump agenda that actually does concern me, and it has nothing to do with Maxine Waters, clown, Hakeem Jeffries, clown, Jasmine Crockett, the biggest clown of them all. I'm not talking about any of those people, but we do have to briefly mention what's really going on here. And that is the push by the activist judges, many of whom were appointed by Barack Obama, by Joe Biden. What they are trying to do is essentially just restraining order and stay away any attempts of Trump getting a single thing done. And what exactly am I talking about? Well, over the past couple of days, you may have seen a lot of headlines like this as just one example, right? According to Reuters, a federal judge has blocked the possible Trump admin transfer of Venezuelan illegal alien criminals to Guantanamo Bay. And what's been going on in all of these cases is these are not federal judges trying to rule the moves by the Trump administration or by DOGE to be unconstitutional. And this is certainly not the Supreme Court striking down what Trump is doing. Notice they used the term blocked. Well, what's going on here is, again, these activist judges are basically trying to put temporary stays and restraining orders on everything the Trump administration tries to do, hoping that, well, wait a minute, let's decide if this is constitutional or not. We're going to send it to the courts and wait. Don't do anything until the courts decide. It's going to take like 2 to 3 years to get a ruling ultimately from the Supreme Court that could very likely be in Trump's favor. And by the time that happens, what they're basically hoping to do is use these restraining orders to run out the clock on Trump's presidency, hoping he got nothing done. And then finally, all these court cases are finished and it's inconsequential by then because these all took place years ago, what they were trying to do. And in the end, you know, completely stifle the Trump agenda. I will say this aspect of it does concern me. Okay. So I think, honestly, in many of these cases, what the Trump administration has to do, I know this is going to be a bit of a controversial opinion. Some people will disagree, but I say they have to go full steam ahead. I mean that absolutely. Okay, you cannot allow our agenda to be stifled by an activist judiciary who is doing things that they arguably, I would say, do not have the authority to do. Right? Like Guantanamo Bay, for instance, that is an issue of national security. A judge doesn't just get to just like put a restraining order on that subjectively for absolutely no reason. Again, it's one thing if these cases go all the way up to the Supreme Court and the court ultimately makes a ruling on constitutionality. But what's going on right now in the judiciary is literally just judicial harassment. Right. And our founding fathers did set up a judiciary system so that way, you know, you have things like judicial review. Right. The Supreme Court can decide whether or not certain acts of Congress or the president are constitutional. I do understand all that. However, our founders did not set up a system, and conservatives need to be very clear about this, that allows activist judges to just put restraining orders on everything so that way the president cannot actually pass anything or get anything done. Like, no, that was never the intent of the federal judiciary. And so I say, you know, there is plenty of precedent, frankly, for a lot of presidents in the past who have defied the judiciary. This is nothing new. Like Andrew Jackson, very famous one there with Indian removal. But even in the last term, right, Joe Biden basically circumvented the Supreme Court's authority on, you know, they shut down. They ruled that student loan forgiveness was unconstitutional, Biden basically just did it anyway under a different name. There's plenty of precedents for this. So what I say is like, look, again, if the Supreme Court wants to rule on something, that's one thing. But we're not going to just stop everything we're doing because some activist judge who arguably doesn't even have the authority to do it to begin with is just like, nope, restraining order, wait 2 years before you do that so we can do this case. Like, again, that's probably controversial. I know it's an uncomfortable position or conversation to have amongst conservatives because we really like our judiciary. We really like the institutions and the rule of law and all of that. But I'm sorry, the system's completely broken. Okay, so it's like you have one of two choices. Either you let this Trump White House do nothing, like you just do nothing under this presidency, and then say, okay, at least we kept our principles. And then the next time the Democrat wins an election, they're just going to go full steam ahead, which I virtually guarantee you, Biden was one thing. Biden was an older politician. He comes from a different generation. The second that one of these new generation Democrats takes power, they're going to go full steam ahead. They're not going to care about judges or rule of law. They're going to abolish the filibuster. They're going to do everything. They're going to get rid of all the precedents. So I say, if you're the Trump administration, why not beat them to the punch? Okay, again, do not be subverted by an activist, arguably unconstitutional judiciary to begin with what they're doing. How come these activist judges did not, for instance, put a temporary stay or restraining order on FEMA trying to send $60 million to illegal immigrants when it was in violation of Trump's executive order? How come it's only the Trump executive order that they're trying to restraining order their way out of? Okay, again, just saying, we can have a conversation about this, but that is the one concern I have, and that is the one thing that cannot be allowed to happen. Okay, we got to not worry about this activist judiciary that's going to basically try to reverse or keep in place, I should say, the managed decline of this country. No. Don't be beholden to these activists. Again, they're not even the Supreme Court. These are lower level judges. Honestly, again, I know it's controversial. I think Trump should just ignore them. But nonetheless, guys, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.